The band was back in early February 1971 for overdubbing many of the songs they recorded since November the previous year. From the guitar layers of Black Dog to the finishing touches of Stairway to Heaven, these Island Studio Sessions Part 2 were crucial to the album's sound. In between the works of Rinse and Repeat for the fourth album, a Light and Shade song by the name of Down by the Seaside was recorded. With a song titled tribute to Neil Young's 1969 track by the name of Down by the River, it's a showcase of Led Zeppelin's proficiency with minimalism in the studio. John Paul Jones carries the spirit of the song with his Hodder electro piano, alongside Jimmy's guitar through a Leslie speaker for the famous underwater sound. Page and Plant wrote the song back in 1970 at the Cottage Sessions in Wales. There is no question how much Down by the Seaside sounds like something from Led Zeppelin IV. The band never played the track on stage. Robert Plant recorded the song with Tori Amos for the 1995 Led Zeppelin tribute album Encomium. According to Plant, his bandmates laughed at him when he suggested the track for Physical Graffiti, with John Paul Jones not being very fond of it. Once Boogie Wood Stew and Night Flight made the cut for Graffiti, Down by the Seaside had a chance in 1975. I find it interesting Jones didn't like this song. It was probably the Happy Carousel vibe of the main verse what threw him off. It definitely walks on the edge of syrupy ballads and classic rock.
It comes in from when she gets there, she knows if the stars are aglow, she can call in and see.
Okay, time for the FM radio classic. According to the information on the album's deluxe edition, basic rhythm tracks of electric piano, drums, and Jimmy's famous harmony acoustic guitar were recorded on December 5th, 1970 at Island Studios. Now there is an issue with this date, as Jimmy was quoted on a 2002 Guitar World interview saying, "We really couldn't have done the acoustic guitar and drums at Headley. We needed a nice big studio. It's as simple as that." Because extensive rehearsal for this song was done at Headley Grange, it seems the actual recording date for Stairway is somewhere around the week of February 8th, 1971. Further proof of this is the fact that Down by the Seaside was also recorded in February at Island Studios, with a similar Hunter electric piano and room sound to Stairway to Heaven. Because Stairway has been discussed in so many articles and videos, I will steer away from the information that you guys already know, including Robert's lyrics. Let's state the obvious here. The famous guitar intro comes from the closing section from Babe I'm Gonna Leave You off Zeppelin's debut album. Now, with all the controversial statements around the infamous copyright trial, I must say, I found a possible source of inspiration as far as production goes for the song. You guessed it, it's Fleetwood Mac's Oh Well. Again, check out part 2. There's an acoustic guitar and flute arrangement. Now back to Stairway. Just before Jimmy's guitar solo, there is a chord motif in D major. This one comes straight out of Led Zeppelin's Tangerine, where a similar part was played as a closing section to the chorus. As for the solo itself, it was played on Jimmy's Dragon Telecaster, which proves this is the most important instrument of the band's early years, the more you think about it. I need to say that I think Jimmy's opening notes from the solo were slightly inspired by Ritchie Blackmore's guitar work on the slow section for Child in Time, released in 1970. And as we know, Child in Time inspired Achilles' Last Dance sort of staccato marching band part. That's a rabbit hole for you guys. The rhythm section behind the guitar solo for Stairway to Heaven employs a descending chord sequence similar to Jimi Hendrix's take on All Along the Watchtower, as well as the hard rock part from Once Again, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You. The way Jimmy played the F chord is brilliant. He plays the bar chord on all strings except the first, which adds extra resonance and is usually ignored by cover bands. Stairway to Heaven, I believe, is a culmination of an intention page recorded several times through their first 3 albums. It borrows from Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, as mentioned. Also, it has some of the drum beat for Your Time Is Gonna Come, some of the acoustic guitar work of Thank You, and of course, a lot of Led Zeppelin III vibes. John Bonham allegedly did a good first take on his drum parts for Stairway. Not pleased with the result, Jimmy challenged him to do better. Angry at him, Bonzo took it personally and added extra strength to the fills and rhythm accents throughout the song in response to Page. This paid off and the result is amazing. John Paul Jones needs a higher praise for his vital contributions on Stairway, from carefully overdubbed recorders to astute bass lines, as well as playing the Hunter electro piano, which he would use for no quarter in Houses of the Holy. The man laid down a masterclass in multi-instrumentalist virtuosity. I believe the song's ending with Robert's voice a cappella was quite an innovation for rock and roll radio hits back then. It's what they didn't play what makes Zeppelin's music stand out, the economy of instrumentation and silence. Like Black Dog, this song was performed from 1971 until their final show in 1980, with the guitar solo section extending accordingly. Jimmy Page played this a total of 42 times on his solo career ventures of 1988. You can check my video on Robert Plant coming to terms with Stairway for an inside look at his beef with this rock and roll anthem and his most recent performance of the song.
We're going to do something off the fourth album. Robert!
The band was back on the road for the first time since September 1970. While records state these concerts in spring were promoting their still unreleased fourth album, it should also be considered as a concert tour for Led Zeppelin III, as the band was off the road at the time of its release. This is a serious case of album promotion overlapping each other. While the average setlist may look small, keep in mind these shows were almost 2 hours long. That's what I call serious musicianship, long before things got scripted. First two shows in Ireland saw Belfast and Dublin witness live debuts for Black Dog, Stairway to Heaven, Going to California, and Rock and Roll. From the get-go, these songs were very well rehearsed and ready to be played live. Leeds, Canterbury, and Southampton were amongst the first 3 British cities where 3 cuts from Zeppelin IV were premiered, except Rock and Roll. This tour saw the live debut for Jimmy's EDS 1275 double neck guitar, which allowed him to replicate Stairway's textures on stage. He would also use this instrument for Celebration Day. The tour ended with the band's famous Paris Theatre concert on April 1st, which we can enjoy on disc 2 from the BBC sessions. What we hear in the recording is only the 13th time Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, and Going to California had been played on stage. The vibrant sounds and energetic displays of youth were the signs of a group at the height of their performance capacity. Everybody was on fire. You can check my video on the making of the BBC sessions for a deep dive on the context of how these concerts took place back then. The minute Led Zeppelin finished their Back to the Clubs tour, Jimmy Page and engineer Andy Johns spent most of April 1971 mixing Led Zeppelin's fourth album at Sunset Sound in Los Angeles. Despite the studio's state-of-the-art equipment, It was all smoke and mirrors by the time Jimmy returned to England with a big smile and the tapes with the final mixes. His bandmates were shocked. Quote Jimmy Page, "It didn't sound anything like it did in LA. I was astonished. At the time there were all these stories of tapes that have been wiped out by the magnets used in British subways. All I can put it down to was the speakers and the monitoring system in that room were just very bright, and they lied. It wasn't the true sound." So did any of the Sunset Sound mixes survive on their final release? All the songs had to be remixed, except When the Levee Breaks, which managed to keep the sound Page was originally happy with. Just imagine if the entire fourth album sounded like Levee. With the pressures of Atlantic Records on their back, Jimmy had to work fast and remix the whole thing against the clock. The 2014 deluxe edition of Led Zeppelin IV contains Stairway to Heaven's Sunset Sound mix, which features many subtle differences to the version we all know. From added reverb in the beginning to the recorders cut without a fade, this is a different take on the classic. The drums are brighter, and you can hear Jimmy slide down the neck as he finishes guitar solo. Robert Plant's vocals in the last section are not triple tracked, so we get a single vocal track for a closer representation of a live performance. Led Zeppelin embarked on a rather strange series of 5 shows across Europe. The band's setlist at Copenhagen saw the premiere of Misty Mountain Hop, and again overlapping with Led Zeppelin III, the live debut of Gallows Pole. Their May 10th show at Liverpool was rescheduled from March 16th. Liverpool was the first British city where Led Zeppelin played rock and roll for the first time. Page squeezed in precious studio time at both Olympic Sound and Island Studios London to finish the gargantuan task of completing all final mixes for Led Zeppelin IV. These sessions produced a famous alternate UK mix for When the Levee Breaks, with minor differences in the mix that showed just how ambitious this track was. Jimmy was working on the run, with no time for hesitation. They had to deliver the goods by yesterday. With the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers and the Doors' LA Woman released in April 1971, every passing month until November was a lost opportunity to capitalize on touring and word-of-mouth publicity. Historic shows from the band's European run included the infamous July 5th gig at Velodromo Vigorelli, Milan, Italy, which was cut short due to heavy violence between police officers and audience members. Led Zeppelin never came back to Italy. Memories of tear gas made their tears feel like rain. The band did return to Montreux for 2 shows on August 7th and 8th, with Now Going to California, a sister song to That's the Way, in the set. Strangely enough, rock and roll was not played at these concerts. By the time they played their final song at Montreux, all these albums had been released by then. Joni Mitchell's Blue, ELP's Tarkus, Link Wray's self-titled album. This one made Jimmy quite happy, I'm sure. Allman Brothers Band at Fillmore East, Deep Purple's Fireball, Isaac Hayes' Shaft, Black Sabbath's Master of Reality, and The Who's colossal Who's Next album on August 2nd, 1971.